Trump administration is urging all sides to engage peacefully and refrain from violence. It's also doing its best to warn China, saying Hong Kong protesters have legitimate concerns about the erosion of their autonomy and the breaking of promises by China. Correspondent Kevin Cork is at the presidential compound in New Jersey tonight.
Deeply concerned. That's how the U.S. State Department is describing its position regarding the ongoing unrest in Hong Kong. With Chinese forces amassing near Hong Kong's border, there are increasing concerns there and in Washington that history will repeat itself. When a previous Chinese uprising, the one at Tiananmen Square in 1989, was squelched violently by the Chinese government. Then, as now, suspicions in Beijing, with suggestions that Washington is the, quote, black hand behind the city's violence. The State Department said today that Hong Kongers had, quote, broad and legitimate concerns about China's overreach, adding bluntly, we categorically reject the false charge of foreign forces as the black hand behind the protests. The unrest offers a clear example of the complicated order that has seen the two powers grow ever closer economically and yet on many fronts remain worlds apart, even as President Trump, who has long hailed his close relationship with Chinese President Xi Jinping, tries to walk a political and diplomatic tightrope with trade, deconfliction in the South China Sea, and negotiations with North Korea, all hanging in the balance. But on Capitol Hill, there was little nuance, with leaders from both parties placing blame for the chaos squarely on Beijing. If America does not speak out for human rights in China because of commercial interests, said House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in a statement, we lose all moral authority to speak out elsewhere. Added Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Hong Kongers, quote, know the truth about exactly who is responsible for inciting chaos. The rest of the world knows too. Regardless of when or how the situation is resolved, there could be long-term consequences for U.S.-China relations. Still, with rare but broad bipartisan support to sharply criticize Beijing's approach, there appears to be little appetite to de-escalate the rhetoric. This as the world watches, waits, and in many corners, worries.
Brett, policy experts tell us that it is obviously imperative that the Chinese government wrap this unrest up in Hong Kong by October 1st. You see, that's the 70th anniversary of the founding of modern-day China. It is clear the government in Beijing would like to have no distractions from Hong Kong as they try to celebrate that. Brett?
Kevin Cork traveling with the president. Kevin, thank you in New Jersey.